Hello, my friends. I hope this is live and going out into the world right now. My name is Kevin Ung, and I am immensely honored to be hosting this live stream with you all. Hello, my friends. Let's make sure that is being muted. So, as again, let's try that again. Very honored to be hosting this live stream, sponsored by Intel. And for all the latest Intel information, please visit at IntelTech on Twitter, and also be sure to click the subscribe button below to stay up to date with IntelTech on YouTube. So, the intention of today, twofold. A lot of you may have gotten headsets over the holiday, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I get to play games, I can tour the world, I can do all these things, but you can make beautiful art with your headset. And I really want to be able to showcase that in this hour. And VR art honestly doesn't quite get the spotlight it deserves. Even as it is evolving at this point, I just think the world of it. I've been doing it for the past 5 years, and these fellow artists that we are lifting up today are fantastic. And so it's a very good example of what's already being done in the space. And hopefully we can provide some supportive feedback in the meantime. And also, I want to acknowledge that all the artists who came through and submitted during the time period, I am so grateful for you all. That was some really exciting work came through, and I wish I could sit down and review each and every one of the pieces. But alas, we have the hour, and we have 3 lovely artists to spotlight today in the guise of Chroma, Snare, Ewan Rose, and Brooke Einbender. So thank you, all 3 of you. Before I jump into all that, I will do my very best to give you a brief background on me, because there's a whole heck of a lot of you who don't know who I am. So again, my name is Kevin Ung, aka Kevo on Twitter. And I'll jump into my VR origin story, but to back up a little bit, I've been a lifelong artist. I've gotten to do everything from broadcast designer at Network, and that's why, so my little finger, let me see if I can get this right. If only I had like a little star, like a little sparkly star come off, but that's a little Emmy I got, a little regional Emmy I got for working at CBS for a bit. And then, I've just worn so many fun hats throughout my career. Storyboard artist. Right now, I'm actually a contract designer for a fintech company. Gonna do feature film animation, worked on documentaries, you name it. I've sort of jumped into the pool. But VR is the one space I've been most excited by, and for very, very specific reasons. So why don't I do this? Why don't we jump right into my little demo reel that I made? I made especially for you all. So it kind of gives you a sense of sort of, at least my purview, at least my part of the world of VR. And we'll get to these 3 lovely artists. So here we go. All right. Hopefully that was, and thank you for the comments, you all. I should say, please do drop your comments in the thread and any questions that you may have. The lovely team over at Intel are helping to moderate as well. So thank you. So that was my little intro, and there is a lot to say about all the things that go into it, but I will just say that it's a mixture, sort of three different things. There is, as you saw towards the end, I sort of started breaking it down by the apps, but Medium was used to sculpt, Gravity Sketch was used to get sort of a gestural drawing out of it first. There's a lot of tilt brush in there, which is the painting program. And you can see here, this is what I've been using. And a lot of that work is from over the last year, by the way. And then, of course, the controllers. At the risk of becoming a prop comedian here are all the little pieces of the puzzle. So that's the hologram that I'm using, called the Looking Glass Portrait. And what else do I have? I got my little Bob Ross, who keeps me company and makes sure that my muse is very much alive. So that's all to say, like, I'm pointing all those things out because all that is very much powered by the fact that I'm on this Intel-based machine. This is a G66 Raider. I cannot show it to you because we're operating off of it right now with a lovely 3080 chip. So I'm very blessed to have that kind of power at the moment. But with the Quest, or any headset for that matter, most of that software can be used in terms of the actual VR art, in terms of the deployment, in terms of the actual, usage. That part has been my re-entry into the PC side of things. So I'd gone decades without even touching a PC, and so without that, it's a really very, very important piece of the puzzle. That's kind of what I want to emphasize. So my VR origin story, briefly, because I really want to get to the artist. VR origin story is about 5 years ago. I got very interested by this one viral video that came across my Facebook feed. It was a Goro Fujita animated piece. I think it was called Worlds and Worlds. And it really spoke to me because I had never seen anything quite like it before. It was almost like a vector animated piece on acid, because it was literally these worlds being zoomed in at almost like an infinite scale. And I'll speak more to scale as we go on into the reviews, but it was entrancing to me. I was like, I didn't know what I was looking at. And I think a Black Friday sale came around, and that's when I got my first laptop, my first PC laptop. And it was fantastic. It was really, really great to be able to just jump right into the pool. So there was like a good 6 months where I just thoroughly jumped into VR, explored the whole suite of tools from, I mentioned earlier, the sculpting, the painting, and animation. Like, it was all covered at that point. This is 5 years ago, and everybody was still really just like working on all, the engines were just revved up. So I will say that the first night I spent with Medium was really magical. And I do want to point this out because I think a lot of us VR artists, a lot of us XR artists have this shared journey of wonder. And we all have a very specific moment. And my moment was with Medium, because I think I had a really interesting self-narrative, a very like self-limiting narrative around, oh, I can't do VR, or I can't do 3D art. I couldn't pick it up for the life of me because I felt it was very clinical up to that point. And a lot of the things I was doing, as I mentioned, motion design, I was doing illustration, I was doing 2D animation. Fantastic. I'm so happy that I could do that. But this just unlocked something for me. This was the Rift CV1 back then. And I remember jumping into Medium. I may have watched a tutorial too. And I just, for lack of a better term, I think what I created that night was a Rastafarian Pokemon. That's all I can say. Maybe one day I'll repost it somewhere. But it was wondrous to me to be like, I can recreate like the dumb look on my face. I was just like beaming, smiling at the sky, at the light inside this scuba gear here. And I think that's what it is. Like a lot of us VR artists, we have no choice but to turn towards the light, and being able to find that. So I spoke to the muse earlier. We always talk about like the mythology of a muse and an artist. But to me, a muse is three things. A muse is curiosity, tenacity, and is it three things? Is it three things really? Curiosity and tenacity and inspiration made tangible. I kind of think of it like a heart song, like a heart song that you cannot resist. And so that's kind of where this all comes from. And I think you will see it in the work. And the reason why I mentioned that smile and looking up at this like giant creation that I made and feeling like this new avenue had reopened for me, it was totally this reclamation of my inner child before any shame had gotten hold of it. And I don't know. I think that's what I always come back to. I always come back to trying to chase that medium. And VR and XR happens to be a great portal for it. So without further ado, because I'm just going to ramble on and I hate doing that, let us jump into our first piece of art by Chroma Snare. And let me show yous what we got here. All right, so Chroma Snare has this piece called Submerged, and I love this. This is like the direct tweet he left for us. I always have a hard time choosing favorites, but this will do. Made this with Gravity Sketch, Medium, and Tilt Brush. Fantastic. Already two things off the bat. I haven't even seen the piece. I love it. Like the fact that you have a hard time choosing favorites is like, again, totally resonate with that because this is what we're talking about, right? The whole notion of being able to say, hey, I love my work and I'm going to make more of it, damn it. So I'm glad that you chose this piece. I understand that the prompt for this, because this is part of the VR Art Live community, and I think the prompt was water. So you probably do this as dailies, which I commend you. That's already like really hard to do, the discipline of doing dailies. So I'm always going to be swiveling a little bit. I'm not watching a Wimbledon game. I'm going to swivel a little bit every once in a while just so I can look at comments. Yeah. So, and thank you everyone for continuing to drop in comments here. Second thing I love, made this with Gravity Sketch, Medium, and Tilt Brush. So you saw my little trailer earlier. So much of that stuff comes from actively experimenting with different tools together. So Gravity Sketch and Medium, as I mentioned, both are sculpting tools, but they have different modalities to get to that final result. Tilt Brush, wonderful for not just painting, but also performing in mixed reality. There have been really interesting ways in which all these things have been put together. And so that's why I kind of call myself a little bit of a mad scientist, because that's the thing I love to do late at night after work, is just start finagling with everything and seeing what comes out. So let's, without further ado, watch Submerged. Sorry, I have so many screens up right now. Okay, here we go. And how I'll run this is basically I'll run it through once. I won't talk, and then we'll just scrub through several times as I talk through some feedback. All right. Awesome. So let me come back to the beginning here. And if you don't mind, I'm going to turn the volume down. So maybe we can even play it through while I'm talking. Um, yeah, and I love what's happening in the chat, by the way. I know. The fact that you're doing this weekly, Chroma, is still very admirable. I've tried dailies before. It's tough. I've done it for like a month with some of my work, and it's no joke. And Ewan, yeah, awesome, right? I definitely want to live here too. I think it's really cool that you took the prompt of water and went with something that is really unusual. I told you again, my filter, my one of my first loves is film, and a lot of my feedback will come from that world of thinking and filmic perspective. And just straight up, what I already love out the bat is that you thought through the construction of the facility really wonderfully. Like, I think a lot about shape language, whatever you want to call it. You can call it silhouettes. In my case, it's just the language of shapes, especially when it comes down to just like the bubble nature of everything and like how it's all put together. There's something just really, really charming about it overall. And I never get lost in the geography of it, and that's outside of the actual camera work. Like it just feels like it's a place that you actually could live in, to Ewan's point. And I love that you can see everybody's working on something, that everyone has their own role. I think earlier in the piece there's someone, doing some welding up there or something. They're fixing things up. I think there's one shot where we have, it's right here. Yeah, it's almost like this away team. I don't know where they're off to. Maybe Chroma, you can tell us where these three people are off to. It reminds me a lot of, I don't know if this connects with anyone else, but growing up, I love those Richard Scarry books, the Busy Town books, where you'd see all the different animals, and they just all had something happening, and they're various, like, someone's doing brickwork, another person's like fixing a chimney, someone's cooking in the kitchen. And actually, straight up, I would say, like, I would love, if you were ever to touch this piece again, for example, being able to see into one of these bubbles, like a little portal, or even the little ship that we fly by at some point right there. That'd be so awesome. Just to give it another level of dimension, So we get to see a little piloting. They're just goofing off. I love it. Why not? They need free time. They need a break. Yeah, and all the little touches are great too, like the schools of fish, the little lighting on the ground, the camera coming through the seaweed itself. I was curious what these were actually over here. I don't know if these were like anemones or crystals or... Yeah. So I'm staying quiet because I really just want to spend a little time looking at all these characters again too. And I imagine where you were using tilt brush, a lot of it is tilt brush, but where I'm guessing the construction of the actual construction facility here, Gravity Sketch, is probably Gravity Sketch, and then maybe the ground is medium. Because I like what you said earlier. It's like you said that you couldn't really decide on one app, that your favorite app, and I feel the same way too. I like jumping around a lot as well. So let's talk a little bit about, if you were to take a second pass at this. I will say I think this is a very charming piece. If you were to take a second pass, things I would play with are around atmosphere, composition, and camera work. I think those are like the three things I would hit up. So when I think of, I was trying to say earlier about the film aspect of it, the reason why this is such a cool premise is because this is so rarely kind of depicted in any kind of real visual storytelling. You don't see a lot of it. Like I can think of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I can think of James Cameron's The Abyss back in the late 80s. And then maybe like 2 years ago, there was a Kristen Stewart film called Underwater. They've all covered it to a certain degree, but it's never, it's, sci-fi tends to sort of dominate the field. So we're always out in the cosmos, we're always out in the galaxy, when really we are already living on top of an alien planet. When we talk about the Mariana Trench and deep sea exploration, like there's all these aliens underneath us. So I love that you explored this. And so I would be very curious about pushing that even more. So just thinking about it now, like I think what you were depicting, by the way, on the outside to frame this was, if I can remember correctly the term, because I had to look it up, hydroplume vents. I think that's what you were depicting here, because they almost look like volcanic sort of rising from, seeping through. Gravity sketch for ground, structures and divers. In medium, the fish and whale. Oh, interesting. In medium, the fish. We will get to the fish and the whale, because I want to talk about them. I don't want to leave those two lovelies out. Yes. So what was I saying? I was talking about, yeah. So if I think atmosphere wise, if it truly was deep ocean, my feeling is that we would still have to go a bit more monochromatic, more blues and teals. So, and then also bringing the fog overall in. So what I'm saying to you is that creating atmospheric cues that really bring the intimacy and more. And the lighting overall, it would be more directed towards the center, so we could see all the players. Like in this scene alone, for instance, this shot, you could see these two perhaps a little bit more clearer as a result of isolating the light. So I would even think about, and you're already kind of doing it. Like I can see that there's lighting on the undersides of the facility itself. So you've already thought about wanting it to make it feel more underwater in that respect. I just think it means turning down how hot the light is here, and giving it. I'm not saying monochromatic as you like take all the saturation out. I'm more talking about muting it towards the back and then bringing up the vibrancy in the middle. And again, you can paint that. You can paint volumetric light rays maybe below each of these individual joints here. You could paint caustics along the ground where that light shows up. Just subtle things. And I wonder also if it was intentional on your part to give it like a shelf versus having it transition from shelf to backgrounds. That's just a question. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the whale, the killer whale, and the whale. Is it a manta? The fish and the whale. It's somewhere here. Let me see. See, to someone's point, they couldn't see it, and I really would love, and that's where composition-wise, I would love to bring them into I think they're right here. I would love to bring them more into the overall picture because they deserve to be characters in their own right. And I think the piece itself benefits from the scale of them, especially if you place them overhead. Then you really get the sense of like, oh, this facility is quite large, but it's also dwarfed by. Sorry, I'm actually trying to find them again. There they are. I can kind of see them right here. In the background, silhouetted, yeah. And I understand that. Maybe you do want to keep them a bit more silhouetted. And that's perhaps where the fog will kind of help you, is that they're still there. They're just like, we have to remember, it's like, yes, there's this facility, but it's also still in the wild. So that's my overall take on it. Again, wonderful, charming piece. Thank you, Chroma Snare. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. And please, and I'll give everyone the handles later, but please follow Chroma Snare. Next up, we have Ewan Rose. So excited to show you this piece. I'm actually not even going to say anything because I want you to just see it straight up. The name of the piece is He Who Would Not Burn. Oh, let me make sure that I actually get back onto that. Up. Go. Yeah, I agree. So dynamic, and my favorite kind of thing. It's a really great example of a cinematic piece because Ewan is really thinking through the execution in terms of the art, the editing, music, all working in concert. So in a way, it just works as its own sort of standalone short. And it really just this is a very emotional piece. I just feel, and play it again without the sound. It just draws you in, right? Immediately, you see the small deer in the background. Ooh, what's happening here? You're getting pulled through all the smoke and the fire, and it feels really, really oppressive. And it's just this great cathartic reveal at the end. This gut punch of it's a real gut punch of. For me, okay, it really feels to me, it's in the title, it feels like He Who Would Not Burn. There's something very, very confrontational about it in terms of saying, hey, you may try to burn us down, you might try to take our lives, but we are not standing for this, essentially. It's, that Thousand Island stare right there. Thousand Yard stare. Thousand Island stare. Yeah. So, and I imagine, everybody can take what they will from the piece, but I do feel like there's a message inherently in it. And, I, as someone who cares a lot about wildlife conservation, the fact that we have wildfires every year that cause, irreversible damage to the environment, it's really upsetting. And I can imagine, at least for me, that's what I project on the piece. That's what I feel from it. So let's talk a little bit about what's working further about it. I think so. As I said before, there's this funnel quality to it. So already you are playing with this interesting composition in terms of even the branches the way that you painted the branches here. I love there's a spiraling quality about it, and this is something that is, I feel, very unique to exactly this. It's about California wildfire since I live in NorCal. I'm also in NorCal too. I'm with you. Team Ewan on this. So something I didn't really talk about when talking about actually creating something in VR is that it's wonderful that we have, our digital pens, wonderful inventions in their right, but they do not encourage us to actually. They don't encourage us to actually move our whole bodies, And I'm pretty certain that Ewan is really playing with the whole body. Wow, it's all so. I love dancing, and so I bring that whole energy when I paint, and it's really clear to me that, especially as you pull out further, it's really obvious that there's some really beautiful gestural strokes in there. When you see it all macro, like right around there, is where I feel it. So much beautiful circular movement here. You know, this burning effigy of the stag, like it's a lot of triangles, circles, like even the ones on the outer edges here, I can imagine like Ewan is really pulling around, and it's just like the difference between me doing this with my versus my whole arm pulling, and that's why I think VR art is so special as a medium, and we don't talk about it quite enough. Like, you see in some mixed reality pieces, you see how people move. It's great, but breaking down, like, why do we move that way? What is it about that embodied gesture that is so freeing, you know? I get excited just talking about it. So, and also the micro to macrocosmic scale is beautifully done here. So what I'm talking about is that, and again, something that is unique to VR art in terms of making it, again, is the fact that Ewan is actually probably playing, and I also imagine Chroma Snare was as well, is that you are constantly both, you can scale up and down your creations in a second, like literally with both controllers, you know, with these trigger buttons, I can pull up the whole composition at once, super, super large, and then miniaturize them in the same second. So that kind of plays through in the piece too, which I really like a lot. Also, the economy of the brushes is great. I just love the economy because it really contributes to the overall aesthetic. I don't know quite how many brushes you may have used here, Ewan, but it really shows through that you picked. Some of the temptation with using tilt brush in the beginning is that you have too many brushes to actually deploy. So I find in a lot of people's initial pieces, like, they're throwing everything at the canvas. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But this shows you how, if you just pick, I don't know, maybe there's like 5 or 6 brushes here to my eye. Like you picked a really interesting hull, like the hull brush, for instance, for the charcoal, like along the neck. I love that. And I think the actual, I don't know if that's a disco brush. Anyhow, we won't get into the minutiae of all that, but and then you lit it this way, which makes it even more, again, we come back to that shape language, like that starkness and the contrast between so much fire and then so much charcoal. It's just very arresting. So that's all to say, I wouldn't actually even touch this piece in terms of it aesthetically. Where I think, again, I'm going to keep on coming back to this, like a second pass, you feel everything I'm talking about with joy, full body movement. Yes, it's what it's all about. And this may play into what I talk about next in terms of where I think actually you could go with this piece is disruption in terms of the editing and the camera technique. I love the fact that you have this funnel, this tracking shot that we're following all the way through. But I think you could start making really unusual compositional choices if you did it again. Like, you could do really staccato like editing in terms of, so if we start from the beginning, for instance, I'm very curious what you could do if you started empathizing from the view of the smaller deer. Would you show different shots altogether? Additionally, hopefully this doesn't pull away too much from what I'm saying, the thorough line, but someone in your responses had mentioned they would love to see 360 version of this. I'm in total agreement of that, because going to make a 360 version of this actually makes you approach it entirely differently, because you don't really have the benefit of traditional cuts anymore. You can cut, but you can't really hide things as much as you would like to. I mean, and I don't mean hide in a bad way. I mean that you are just obfuscating certain things from the viewer in order to, for example, to get that beautiful reveal. So I'd be really curious what you do with a 360. But there are other things you can do within camera. So we have that. So we all have this challenge as VR artists. Also, for people who don't have headsets, we have to be able to convert our work into this pancake format. So what are the other things we could do? I think it'd be really interesting to even try like a dolly zoom. Of all the VR artists I can think of right now, Rosie Summers does that quite well in specific. She makes really specific choices when she does a reverse dolly zoom. So it's that very famous technique that Spielberg used in Jaws, where it's like you're punching in on Roy Scheider, but also you're pulling the camera out physically at the same time. So it's this really surreal quality. And I could even see you physically spinning the camera as you come out into the giant stack. And one thing I would love for you to check out, if you haven't checked out already, is a website called artofthetitle.com, because I think you'll get a lot of beautiful inspiration for credit. It's exactly in the title. Art of the Title is about title design, and they talk about everything from television to film. I'm trying to think if there are any other mediums covered, but it's just a wonderful way for you to sort of pick up little tips and tricks around like, oh, how could I really push this just that much further? Anyways, I love your piece, and yeah, I think it has a lot of, again, emotion in it. It even has a lot of tenderness in it, interestingly enough, and I think that is that's something I try to do a lot in my work too, and it's a constant challenge. So good on you, bravo for just gifting us with this. So I have to move on. I'm so sorry. This hour is just going so quickly. I am going to move on to, last but not least, Brooke Einbender, aka Mindbender Art. So this piece, augmented reality art inspired by my original oil painting. This piece was rendered in VR using tilt brush. Awesomeness all around. So I was lucky enough to actually get a artist statement along with this. So let me read that out to you. So it gives you a little bit more context, and while we do that, we can actually play this beautiful augmented reality piece. Inspired by sacred geometry, the mysterious inner workings of my mind, every color of the rainbow, fractals, quantum physics, stepping into the unknown. Portals have always been an underlying theme in my art. I've always thought of my painting as portals into another dimension. They are spaces that I want to jump into and explore. With VR, I'm able to do just this. VR surpasses the limitations of painting. I put on my VR headset and I'm immersed in a 3D blank space. I import an image of my oil painting into VR, and using my remote controls, I'm able to paint off the canvas in 360 degrees. It's as if I am painting sculpture and expanding the layers of paint off my canvas and into a 3D environment that one can immerse themselves in. So limitations of VR is that it's a one-on-one experience. So that's why I utilized AR and projection mapping of my VR visuals to bring the virtual back into reality. And before I say anything else, Brooke has a really, really cool site called theunknownzone.com, and where she's been painting these found doors. So you can really see what a multidisciplinary artist she is. And oftentimes, when she displays these, they're actually in nature. So I just think it's such a really, really cool, intriguing idea. But hopefully the artist statement gives you a sense and context of where she comes from. And I think it's why this piece is so strong. It's like, you have this micro, macro, cosmic thing that's happening where, it feels like you're holding this little cosmic galaxy in your hand. But it's also this precious feeling jewel at the same time. And then against the majesty of that background, of the nature in the background, it's awesome. And it does feel very, very interdimensional. Even without that artist statement, I'd be like, oh, there's something really, mandala-like about this. As if I could kind of like disappear into that space. It looks really, really blissful. Mind you, I want to make sure that everyone is. Well, I'm totally voting yes on that. Let's see here. Yeah, and also this is a great demo of how you could use AR as a literal calling card, right? Like, let's just say, like, you're out on the slopes, like we are here, and you're on the ski lift. You're with a stranger, and they ask you what you do, and you could literally show them in the moment, hey, well, this is one of my pieces. So you could have a potentially a patron as a result of being able to do this in the wild, so to speak. IntelTech is great for AR. I think it's just like it's such a like the brushes that just come within it. And now, by the way, if you don't know, OpenBrush, which is the open source version of TiltBrush, has turned 1 this year, and so there's a 1.0 version of it, and it's very exciting for the community. So yeah, the field is really wide open for applications like this. So what I want to say actually about, because it's already teased in this piece, like where could we go further with this? You already have it spinning. And so that to me feels like, oh, this is like a very playful puzzle. How can I, tickle the viewer further with the interaction of it? And I know, and here's where we kind of get into the whole thing. Like, my earlier demo reel, there was a fair amount of game engine stuff in it, and also Blender. So, I was using both Unity and Blender at points. We all have some point, if you're, sort of pioneering in any way or shape, form in this space, we have a moment, again, where we're confronted with, like, how much do I want to learn Blender? How much do I want to learn Unity so I can, take this to the next level? And this is no different. Like, I just really see this being even more animated, like pieces of it, like literally pulling out, or maybe like there are shader effects alongside the edges of it. Just little subtle touches that could really, I don't know. And I was also thinking, even if you don't do animation per se, you could also paint outside the bounds of the camera itself. So maybe it's the smoke, the galaxy smoke that you're using. Maybe you're actually painting something that leads off into another part of that scene, and it could tease something else. Let's just even take the unknown zone. If you created a digital twin of your unknown zone doors and had it as this like other portal, I mean, you're just continuing to, now you can push people towards your future series, essentially. So again, these are all just my 2 cents, but I think this is a lovely piece. I really look forward to seeing you continuing to evolve, and good on you. I want to see more of these doors, that's for sure. So, I think I have yammered on enough, and I am now coming back to full screen mode, and I am ready to take any questions you may have in our last 10 minutes. So let me make sure. Now it's time for my emotional support Bob Ross wig. If you take nothing else from this, know that this will, help us through life. Is just embodying a bit of Bob Ross and all the happy accidents. I really wonder what Bob Ross would think if we would think of VR art, actually. So let's see. Does anybody have Any Y'all have been so good about the comments. Yeah, I love OpenBrush too. I don't know if anybody can hear me through this ridiculous mustache. Uh, yeah, like the new OpenBrush tools are so cool. Snapping, lazy input, all that stuff. I'm digging it. Sorry, I'm rolling back a little bit here to see if I've missed stuff. And while I'm doing this, I want to make sure that all y'all are all you are going to remember is just me and this Bob Ross. It doesn't matter what I said this whole time. You're going to remember the beautiful artwork, and you're going to remember this Bob Ross wig that I got at a carnival. But at the very least, let me plug her beautiful artist today. Snare, at Ewan Rose _art, and at Einbender _art. Ta-da! Bob Ross will be in Vermilion 2027. That's true. Vermilion is, if I am remembering correctly, Vermilion, like VR Artiste, I think, there are several actual painting apps now, like canvas painting apps in VR. And I need to check those out at some point because I'm curious about how well, colors mix and things like that. Oh my God, I'm going to get super sweaty soon. But yeah, can you imagine like just being able to paint this way? Let me see. Questions. Do I have a dream project I'd love to create in the future? Oh, that is a wonderful question, Nora. You know what? I'm actually kind of living it already. One thing I didn't really cover in my intro was that, I've had some really fun milestones throughout my VR life, which include being a contestant on a reality show for Oculus Medium, where we did like head-to-head 5-minute battles. That was super fun. I've been through the Launchpad program. But fast forward to today, I've had a really great time playing in social VR. So big shout out to my, so I live stream with this wonderful crew. We call ourselves the Better Together VR crew. And these are my friends in Canada. Without a doubt, we've all been through really, really tough times these past 2 years. And that has been a really great emotional anchor for me to have a weekly thing that we do. And we get to basically, and why I'll get to the dream project part. The dream project part is because it's a collective that we are doing things together. We actually create worlds together in VR chat. I should say it's VR chat. And by the way, there's a very cool documentary that just came out at Sundance that we happen to cameo in, called "We Met in Virtual Reality." And the social VR has really unlocked this part of me where I've gotten very passionate about making avatars. So some of the characters that you saw in my demo reel are actual avatars, the cat specifically, and I just had so much fun being able to be both Geppetto and Pinocchio at the same time, And then making worlds is a whole other thing. Like looking at Chroma Snare's piece specifically is, and Ewan said earlier, like, I want to live there. Absolutely possible if you can make it for VR chat. So there you have it. I feel like I'm living the dream already. You're very welcome, Debbie. What's the best way to get started in VR art? Oh, okay. Very, very early on, I said I did the 6 months of, like, I was just a monk, like learning all the stuff. But at the same time, you do have to find community. I absolutely recommend, I don't even care what community is. Like, it could be the VR Art Live community, for instance, because that has sort of its inbuilt prompts around for example, water in Chroma Snare's specific piece. But having that community and having the support that is inbuilt is so invaluable. It's the reason why I got into Unity. It's because one of my friends in the community just took time out to intro me and get me onboarded into Unity for one of my tilt brush pieces. So if you can find one, I actually did help to co-found a group at one point called XR Artists, but I can guarantee you. And then if you can even approach it in a way, I'm not recommending you necessarily go the route I did, but experimentation, like really just be open to playing again and not judging yourself when it comes to starting out in tilt brush or starting out in whatever sculpting software you choose, like Gravity Sketch. Just play. And like I said earlier, like gestural strokes, just please let go of your body. Breathe, let go of your body. I think that's really, really important. And I really feel like that would be a Bob Ross thing of just, I think his thing was about not being, it was a real non-judgmental quality to what he did. And I hope that we as VR artists embody that for others, especially those who are coming into the space for the first time. And people are still very, very welcoming. And I hope it continues to stay that way. How much? What's your username in VR chat profile so we can see these worlds? My username in VR chat is Bingko, Bingko. And then our crew, I don't know if the crew is still here in chat, and thank you for having joined. We have our own channel that we do every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And we are the Better Together VR crew, and you can find us on Twitter at better_VR. So that's a good way to keep up with us. How can I be as cool as you, Kevin? Gotta tell you, it's tough out here in these streets. No, please. Anybody can get this wig. Let's just say that. And I gotta take it off. It's just. It's just like it's hot. It's hot up in there. Where do I find inspiration for my artwork? Oh God, that's a great question. And we're coming up on one, so maybe this is our last. Maybe this is our last question. Inspiration. It's a lot of it's film. A lot of it is stories and things I hear from friends. It's, you know what it is? Like I was thinking about the other day, it's like throwing out an imagination net into the universe. And I kind of like, that helps to manifest something very raw and authentic for me. And my job is to take that raw ingredient and nurture it until it becomes something that speaks to me. And then hopefully it speaks to the audience. Hopefully that works for everyone as an answer. So I have to wrap up, unfortunately. I wish I could stay around longer with y'all. But again, if you like what you've seen, you want to see, who knows, maybe you get to see more of me in the future, visit at IntelTech on Twitter. Be sure to comment, click, and subscribe. And you get to hopefully see more of this in the future. Again, I want to express my immense gratitude to the artists, Chroma Snare, Ewan Rose, Einbender, and to everyone watching. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see, please follow them. I'm leaving this up as long as possible for you to all get to it. And here's my shameless plug. So you can find me at the following channels. Thank you for watching, everyone. Take care of yourselves. I hope you have a lovely week. And remember, channel your inner Bob Ross. Take care. Bye-bye.